So today for our hero highlight, Sam Westfall is going to be our spotlight speaker. So I'm going to give Sam like 3 or 4, 5 minutes, or 2, 3, whatever you want to take, and talk about your service in the U.S. Army. And I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and pop up your slide here for your spotlight speaker, and you can just kind of segue into that if you'd like to. Sam is the creator and the owner of ArcheryNMotion, and he's going to be telling you all about that. Jot down some questions as we're talking, and I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to stop sharing my slide. Oh, and if you have anything you need to share, Sam, I'm going to go ahead and make you a.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
So tell us about your Army service.
All right. I'm hoping it's just you breaking up and not everybody. All right. So with that said, thank you, Angela, for having me as a speaker and then as well as a spotlight. So I'm from Boulder, Colorado. Grew up east of Boulder, so Boulder's its own little universe. Very, very, very different world. But for someone from Boulder to walk into the military recruitment office, to an Army recruitment office and say, I want to join, I had the recruiters just fumbling all over themselves. They had no idea what to do. They had no idea where the paperwork was. It was fun to watch. Anyway, so I got through the military recruiters. I went and did my ASVAB test, which is the test you need to take in order to figure out which qualify from a job function in the military. Did my ASVAB. In that time, or at that point, I passed high enough from a mechanical perspective that I could do anything from a generator mechanic all the way to an Apache. At the time, I had a huge fear of heights. And so when talking to the recruiters, I said, Apache mechanic, does that mean I have to go up in the air? Well, yeah, you'll have to occasionally fly it, they said. I said, okay, that's out. So how do you sell an 18-year-old kid to go into the Army? How about something big to blow stuff up? So in the national anthem video that Angela showed a few minutes ago, pretty much anything that was on the ground that the Army had to offer, whether it was M1 Abrams, Bradleys, howitzers, MLRS, Humvees, Deuce and a half 5 tons, Hemmets, Hets, the broad spectrum of vehicles, I played mechanic for 7 years. Predominantly an M1 Abrams mechanic. So I got a little bit of welding, a little bit of fabrication, a lot of electrical, and a lot of turbine engine work. 7 years in the Army, so I got injured. I got crushed between 2 tanks. That's a longer conversation over a lot more beer. So I got crushed. The Army has this weird rule that if you can't run anymore, they no longer have a use for you. So I got medically separated. I'm now a service-disabled vet. I utilize that for my business so that I can, go through a little bit of SBA work to help get government grants and perspectives. So that takes me into out of the Army. I spent the next 22 years working in IT for various companies, various industries, predominantly in the infrastructure side. So dealing with servers, networking, operating systems, virtualization, that type of thing. Over the course of all of this time, I've spent 35 years as a hunter and competitive shooter, though. So early last year, I decided I wanted to do something different. So I took my 35 years as a hunter and competitive shooter, my time in the Army as a mechanic, my time in technology, and I decided to start ArcheryNMotion, which is a moving target platform for both 3D archery targets or firearms, cardboard or steel plate targets. And that kind of leads me into what I'm doing today. And Angela was kind enough to bring me in here and let me talk, and we'll see if we can hold it together a little bit. So again, ArcheryNMotion, moving target platform. So what are we? We're the top tier veteran-owned provider, manufacturer of moving targets. I can take any 3D archery target, whether it's a little full-size squirrel all the way to a full-size standing elk, and we can put it on that platform. We can let it roll so that archers, bow hunters can shoot at it, given a little bit different perspective on shooting scenarios, more realistic practice, improved accuracy, and we're going to reduce the goal. Try that again. Our goal is to reduce the number of wounded animals Right now, it's about 300,000 big game animals are non-fatally wounded each year. My goal with improved practice and improved accuracy with ArcheryNMotion is to drop that number significantly throughout the U.S. So, by improved practice, you have higher percentage of ethical shots. More ethical shots means higher volume of lethal shots. So that's on the archery side. On the firearm side, those that served in here will agree with me. Regardless of what branch you serve in, we don't practice on moving targets. It's occasionally a pop-up target that would lay up. You got an X number of seconds to shoot at, and it would lay right back down. I can take steel plate or cardboard targets all the way out to 100 plus yards, and we can make them roll side to side, or we can make them roll towards you, or we can make them roll diagonally away from you, whatever the case may be. And given a more realistic shot scenario for law enforcement, tactical trainers, competitive shooters, and finally the military, gives a whole different world for how we train. And for those that served, we all know the statement and theory of train as you fight. So with that, kind of goes back to what I was saying a minute ago. The moving target provides more realistic practice, ethical shot placement, reduced wounded animals, efficient lethality, improved accuracy, and improved confidence in how you shoot. All right. So really, what's our target? Well, we're looking for individual hunters, competitive shooters, clubs, outfitters, ranges, tournament venues, different pricing models that go anywhere from $2,000 all the way up to 7,000, depending on which model you're looking at. All right, so as Angela said earlier, I'm going to talk for a few minutes, but then I want the rest of it to be open conversation and questions. So that's really all I have. I don't spend a whole lot of time talking to people, so I'd rather go shoot. But anyway, what questions do y'all have for me?
So we can shoot the bull here. How about that?
That's right. Ben, what do you got?
Okay. Ben.
So speed and distance of these targets.
Right, great question.
How far they travel?
Lowest end model, the $2,000 model, is 8-foot straight line movement, moving at about 2.5 miles an hour. 30 yards, it's a fun shot. 60 yards, it's a challenging shot. Next model is a 10-footer, and that's a variable speed. So you can actually change the speed while it's rolling anywhere from 2.5 to 4 miles an hour. Again, put that out at 60 yards, it becomes very entertaining and very humbling for a lot of people. My model that's in prototype is 36 foot in an oval track, variable speed on the fly. You get quartering to, quartering away, broadside and frontal shots on that one because of the oval tracks aspect of it. But again, you're all the way out to 100 yards if you really want to, and that becomes an entertainment for a lot of people as they try to lose arrows. That answer your question, sir?
Yes. What is the average range that archery practices at?
So it depends on where you're at. So from what I heard during the introductions, most of you folks are East Coast, thereabouts, from Mississippi West, or Mississippi East, rather. Most bow hunters will shoot somewhere between 15 to 40 yards on an animal. They'll usually practice maybe out to 60, which is great. That's wonderful practice. It gives a whole different scenario for that. But once you come across the west line of that Mississippi River, we have some longer shots. I've taken shots on antelope at 94, 95 yards with a bow. So having that 100-yard practice is a good thing. Having 100 yards of practice on a moving target makes it a lot more challenging and a lot more realistic, especially because deer, elk, pronghorn, they don't sit still hardly ever. When you get down into the southern states that hunt for hogs, most of those shots are 30, 35 yards at most. But hogs, I've hunted them a couple of years down in Texas. They don't sit still at all. They're constantly bouncing around, moving, eating, talking, getting moved out of the way by their neighbor. So, having that moving target practice is make things a lot more efficient for a lot of people. And like I said, overall, reduce that number of wounded animals. Mr. Dennis,
do you have a facility only, or do you sell this concept to other facilities?
My goal is to sell it to other facilities. My wife and I have been talking and joking about opening up our own indoor archery range and having several of the moving targets in there. We're just not there yet. So right now I'm just selling it to the ranges, the competition venues, and tactical trainers, that type of thing.
Do you have any that you've sold in Michigan?
Not yet. There's actually an event here later this month. I'll be probably coming up to Wisconsin. It'll be about as close as I'm going to get to you. But Beast Mode Archery has an event up there, and there's somewhere between 400 and 600 shooters up there. So we're going to see if we can't get one of the moving targets up into their venue.
I think Dennis has a question.
Yes. So just kind of following along those lines, how would we best get, because I've got guys that I know that are hunters, and a lot of guys that I know that are indoor handgun shooters, etc. And I'd love to be able to get folks familiar with what you're doing, and I'm assuming that what you just answered that. I think that getting this into the ranges that already exist is really what you're looking at, right? So I'd like to be able to. Is it just is the information there on your website, or is there something else? If, say, I get a referral to somebody, one of my buddies at my local cigar lounge says, hey, they really ought to talk to these folks. Is there something else that's more like brochure wise that I could say, hey, send a brochure to these folks?
So I don't necessarily do brochures. Most of the similar to what the gentleman's name that I can't see right now. Similar to what John was saying, that from a marketing perspective, paper, even to your own point, right? Paper, books, kind of a dying thing. So I'm using predominantly social media, and that's where most of my customers live. So if you go to the cigar bar and somebody starts talking about shooting, send them over to either to my website or to my YouTube channel, and they can see what type of, how they could utilize this moving target in their space. So I do have a couple firearms videos. Most of them are archery related, but I do have firearms videos on there as well. Cool. For years, I shot IDPA, 2-gun, 3-gun, indoor combat league. So I've played in that space. I know where the need for this product is. Does that help answer your question?
It does. It does. I'll be sharing that with a number of people. I've got a son who's an attorney up in Washington, but spent time in the service, and he's big into building his own weapons. But he's also a medieval reenactor, so I know he's got a lot of archers in that group.
There you go.
Oh,
very nice.
All right. I'd love to hang around. I've got to go, guys. Okay. Look forward to talking to you all next week. Have a blessed week.
All right. Thanks, sir.
You too.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Hey, I have a question, Sam. So, two questions actually. How would you? Oh, hi, Monica. By the way, Monica popped in on us. So how would a shooting range, incorporate this into their range?
So true shooting range, like firearms range.
Have to have firearms range. Yeah.
Okay. So if you think about a normal firearms range where they're shooting pistol and rifle, you're typically shooting somewhere between 10 yards to maybe 25. You might get some shooters that go out to 50, but predominantly not so much. Rifle side, if you're looking at long range, high power rifles, hunting type rifles, yeah, I'm not in the right space because my wireless controller can only go to 120 yards. But from a competition perspective, most of the rifle competitions are maybe going to go out to 100 yards at most. So I do fit within those spectrums. Now, how would they integrate it? We've got a couple different options where we can set the mover in place, which takes under 10 minutes to set it up. You throw either a cardboard target or a steel plate for that instant reactivity. Especially out at distance, steel plate makes more sense. From a power perspective, we can either run it off a generator, off a wall power, or off a solar panel. So it really doesn't matter, how remote the range is or what the functionality is. If they've got power or not. If they're truly a remote range, you can throw a solar panel out there; it'll run just fine.
And my second question is animals that are they taxidermy, or like is that something that people have to buy separately? I mean, how does that work? I mean, can you
Yep.
just
So
put
the
like
animal, so that's a good question. Yeah. So if you think about the target that's like here in the picture behind me here, so that's a
Yes.
foam 3D elk. There are 5 major manufacturers across the U.S. that build different targets. Like I said, from a squirrel all the way to a full-size standing elk. I would love to be able to do some of the Bigfoot and Sasquatch targets, the full size, because they're 7 foot tall and they're really fun to shoot. But my platform is not big enough to support those. But I can do squirrel to the full size elk or the full size buffalo. So it's everything's pre-configured, doesn't matter. But you're not actually shooting. In this case, you're not shooting a taxidermied animal. The targets are separate. I do have a partnership with one of the manufacturers to get some discounts from their group of targets. So whether that's raccoons or deer, bear, they do have a little Bigfoot, 4 foot tall, kind of cute, kind of fun to shoot at. Coyotes, that type of thing, wolves. So that's an additional cost. But most of the ranges that I'm selling to, or that are potential customers, most of those on the archery side will already have existing 3D archery targets in their inventory. On the firearm side, most of those gun ranges will have some form of cardboard or steel plate targets in their inventory. Again, they're welcome to buy those from me as well, but predominantly my goal is to be able to sell the moving target platform, not necessarily the targets that go with them. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. This seems like it would be something that the military could actually use.
And that's the end goal.
for-
I need to be able to build a little bit of
Is that
credibility and make sure that I've got
the
a solid process for manufacturing before I get to that point.
Right, we want to scale it, right? Yes. Okay, can y'all see me okay? Because my internet thing keeps saying it's slow. Anybody else have a question?
Yeah, Sam, I got a question for you. Well, actually, not even a question. How about an offer? If you need any help doing any ads or anything to put out on social media, I'm willing to work with you and help you out by defining who goes to see the ads.
Okay.
If you want,
Mr. John, thank you for that.
if you want, we can schedule a one-on-one and explain to you how we can probably help you out.
All right. Thanks, sir. Mr. Ben, you had a question?
Yeah, do you have any plans to do less than 36-foot ovals?
Yeah, we've talked about it. When we were building out some of the prototypes, we tried to go down to a 26-foot oval. The challenge became, because the cart itself is very robust and very off-roadable, so it doesn't matter if it'll roll in Colorado or in Florida. I tried to make it so that it was usable just about anywhere. The problem became when we go to a smaller form factor or a smaller track factor, was that the corners were too tight for the cart to go around.
Makes sense.
So I had to, from a geometry perspective, I had to figure out what was the right size curves in the track in order to make it functional. Does that answer?
Yep. That makes sense. I was just wondering why it had to be such a big oval, but that explains why.
Once, so I said 36 feet. So that's linear distance. So you've got, 9 foot across, and then 6, 7, 8, almost 8 foot in length. So it's really, from a size perspective, you're taking up a little bit more than a garage space.
Right.
It's that linear distance, 36 feet.
So it's still only traveling about 8 feet within
Yeah, it's 8 foot in length and about 9 foot across.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Sam. I really appreciate. Anybody else have questions?
Do you have a price on the 36?
Thank you all for your time.
I'm sorry, what?
What's that?
Do you have a price on the 36-foot yet?
That's the high end. So that's at $7,000.
Okay.
The cart itself is self-propelled. Everything is integrated into the cart. The battery alone is almost $900 and it'll run for about 7 hours, depending on what size target you put on there. So we wanted to make it pretty robust, so it does have a price point for it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for all the questions, folks. Angela, I'll give it back to you.